Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Tom Wells here. Today is Tuesday, February 20th, 2018, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, your third daily dose of happy for this Tuesday, now that we have one evening show a week. So we welcome you to the evening edition of LOA Today. And as we explained last week, Tom, we're doing this because we know that people who work during the day and have family requirements and obligations during the day, they just can't make calls during the day. But maybe they want to call us, maybe they want to talk with us, maybe they want to get involved with the live broadcast. So we created this Tuesday night thing as a test to see what happened. And last week we got our first caller, so that was a good thing. You know, first caller, first night. Can't argue with that. And tonight we're going to find out if more people want to call. And if you are listening to the podcast, it's actually a broadcast as you're listening, live broadcast. You're almost certainly doing it through loatoday.net's homepage. You'll find the instructions right there on the page. Just scroll down a little bit about how to connect to us through the Zoom platform. It's really easy. I mean, this new platform is incredibly easy to connect to compared to the stuff we used to do in the past. And you got 3 different ways to do it. So just click and it'll download an app, or you can even just dial the phone number either way. And come in and talk to us. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting thing here, Tom, to see if we're going to get another caller or 2 or 3 tonight. It'd be great if we got that many, but we'll have to see what it is.
Yeah, and you got to keep your eye on the chat room, too.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, because there's also a chat room. When you log
Somebody did chat last time, too.
It was Wendy, actually, as it turned out. Yeah, Wendy came at the very last second and gave us a chat message, a little hello, which was great. But you do it actually through that Zoom platform, the same one that you use to talk to us. There's actually a little chat thing. So even if you don't want to actually talk to us, just click on downloading the Zoom app and go to the little chat room. You can type us a message, and we'll reply to you there too. So we were talking Monday morning, Tom. Last time you and I did the show together, we were talking about a topic that carries over pretty well because there's a lot to talk about on this topic. But I figured I'd let you reintroduce it because we've had 2 shows since then, so that doesn't necessarily mean that people remember exactly what the topic was about. So give us like a little overview. What were we talking about?
Well, we're talking about chilling out. I love the way that Abraham talks about that so much. They use the word chill out. And I found that with my clients, with myself, and with, as I said, as Abraham often says, with people that they're talking to in the chair, that seems to be one of the most dominant themes that comes up over and over and over again. I really notice it in my coaching, is that people just feel uptight about their lives and they struggle. And they try really hard and they try to be really diligent and they make a lot of effort. And all that struggling and trying and diligence and effort is ironically not the way to get what we want. And it's not that we can't get things by effort. We know that some things require effort and that there's a lot of people who would say they got everything they have in their life by hard work. So I think in our society it's huge. We know that. We were raised with it, most everybody. It's all through the school system and sports and everything. But here's the thing. It appears that in the world of the law of attraction, possibly in the forces that keep the planets spinning in close proximity to each other, that keep the trees growing, that keep the seasons turning around, that the dominant theme is ease. And the dominant theme is relaxation. It's flow. I've even heard Abraham said that what you actually are, and others I've listened to who are speaking from the unseen realm, channeled entities, they say what we actually are as a human being, we're a flow. And we're like a flow of energy and light, you could say. And might be very accurate, but it definitely defines us in a different way than we think of ourselves as. This 3D reality makes us think of ourselves quite statically, and that, there's a lot of push and pull and a lot of up and down, and it seems like striving is just a necessary aspect of life. But turns out that if we go easy on our lives, if we chill out a lot more, if we learn to make relaxation and having ease in our lives as important as making effort, maybe even more important, that we will get that what we want will start flowing to us. That's the key to get things to flow from our vortex, from that reservoir of infinite possibilities where we've stored all of our hopes and wishes and dreams and possibilities. Those things will begin to flow to us in a much more easy way when we get a lot more easy. Of course, there you go. We put out the vibration of ease, and doors begin to easily open up, and things begin to happen. So that's the general theme of what we were talking about on Monday, and what we're going to continue to talk about tonight. So
it was interesting because before the show, I was talking with you. We were doing our usual pre-call chat that we always do. All the co-hosts do it with me. And during that chat, I was telling you that I had acquired a copy of the original Secret, the one that has Abraham Hicks in it. Only 200,000 copies were made, only 200,000 out of, I don't know how many, 3 million or something like that. And found a copy of it, so I bought it because I'd never really seen the whole thing with Abraham in there. And it was good. I mean, I'm only halfway through it, but it was kind of fun to watch it. One thing that is a little different in this version of The Secret compared to what was later called the Expanded Secret, meaning that they cut Abraham out. Why did they cut it out and call it Expanded? I don't know, but that's what they did. Marketing tactic, maybe? I'm not really sure. But anyway, one of the things that was different between the two was their description of the 3-step process. Because in the original Secret, the 3-step process is essentially the one that Abraham teaches. But in the so-called expanded edition of The Secret, it was a different version. It had different steps. In the expanded version, the version that most people know, it was ask, receive, and believe. In the version that included Abraham, the first version, the one that had the first 200,000 copies, it was ask, answer, and receive. So there's a slight wording thing there, but it's more than a wording thing because the receive part also involves what Abraham calls the resistance component. In other words, people have no trouble with the ask part. The answer part, that's the universe's job, so we don't even have to worry about step 2. And then step 3 is the receive part, and the reason why people don't receive what they hope they're going to receive is the resistance factor, which is why what you were talking about is so important, that ease factor, because the ease factor is how we basically eliminate the resistance. Or at least that's certainly how we're trying to eliminate the resistance. How successful we are depends on how easy we get, how relaxed we get, how much we're able to just let go of all of those little thingies that we hang on to that we've hung on to for the longest time and didn't realize we were hanging on to. So it's just kind of interesting that they were talking about that in this original Secret, and here we are talking about the same thing today. I mean, it's the same overall topic, so of course there's going to be parallels, but I just found it fascinating that they're essentially talking about that same thing, that it's about being able to release your disbelief, release your concern that it's not going to happen. And Wendy and I were talking about this earlier today. It's one of those things that's hard to let go of. It's hard to let go of some of those old beliefs of ours and the doubts. The doubts are the hardest part of all, letting go of the doubt. I still struggle with it at times. I imagine you do too. I mean, there are just times where, especially if it's something that we feel is a big thing, the doubt just creeps right in there. That's not easy to deal with.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's not easy to deal with. That's something that can be really hard to deal with. It's amazing. Something as simple as this little process can be so difficult because it depends on us being willing to say what I am seeing with my eyes is not necessarily what has to be.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And like some of the things you were just saying, like Abraham said, those are the very places that we're stumbling, is that we believe it's difficult. We believe it's hard, as you were just saying. And I know I've said that plenty of times, and I feel it in my guts, in my head a lot of time, is that, how do I get everything I want? Don't I have to try harder? Don't I have to make more effort? Don't I have to apply myself more? Am I doing the right marketing? Am I doing the right, the right relating when I'm trying to meet my life partner? Am I presenting myself the way I should present myself? Have I taken care of my wounded child from childhood? And so I'm going to show up as a healthy person. And, there's all these different things that our society has been teaching us. All of psychology and so many disciplines in our world are about getting ourselves up to speed learning so that we're good enough to show up in the world, and then we'll be able to merit the rewards that we want, right?
Right. And on top of that, we're also dealing with the things like I'm trying to attract a new job, and I don't know how that's going to happen. So I start to believe, well, that really can't happen. I know that the only way to get a job is if, you put in hard work and you get a good college degree and you have great credentials and all this other stuff. That's the only way you can get a job. You can't just manifest a job out of thin air. I mean, it's nice to talk about these airy-fairy things, but they don't really work that way. And that's the doubt. That's the doubt creeping in right there.
Yeah.
And it's a hard one to overcome because we've been taught, we've been trained so well in believing that all that kind of stuff doesn't really apply when it does.
Yeah, we were taught a linear way of thinking about everything, that A plus B equals C. Or, like you have to put in this, and then you have to put in this, and then you may be able to equal the result that you want. And, it's sort of like the security of the society is based on everybody's mutual agreement that, if you do things this way, you get the graduate degree, you'll get the job. And it still works that way. I mean, it's still like you can go out and talk to all the kids over here at University of Colorado. They're all going to tell you that if I put in these 4 years and 5 years, 6 years, whatever it is, I'll be able to make good money and I'll have a good job. And a lot of them will exactly do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so who's going to go tell them that the way you get everything you want in your life is by relaxing a whole lot more and actually practically getting lazy, and things will unfold for you. Kid's going to go, my term paper ain't going to get done by me hanging out on the couch watching.
That's right.
Yeah,
the secret's not going to write my term paper for me. That's a fact.
Yeah. So, there is that aspect. Okay. But does your life flow better and do the things you want come to you better, even if you are that student writing that term paper? Does that term paper unfold in a more wonderful term paper with a greater topic and a greater enjoyment of the student writing it? Does it happen more from struggling with it and trying really hard, or does it happen more from maybe giving that person giving themselves a little more leeway to have fun with it, making a choice? I'm going to have fun writing this. I'm going to pick a topic I really like. I'm going to pick a major I really like. I'm going to pick a career I really like. I'm going to make my life mine. I'm going to have fun with my life. I'm not going to just do stuff because, I know that I can make, $200,000 a year if I become that particular profession. It's like, a lot of the young people these days, I don't think they're maybe as driven as previous generations to do things just because everybody told them that's the only way to get ahead. I'm sure there's plenty of people still doing that, but I bet you there's a lot more that have learned because it's just an evolving thing in our society. Do what you love, have fun in your life, do something you really like, because you don't want to be stuck in some dead end thing where you're frustrated. And then of course that produces stress, and that produces heart attacks, and that produces disease in the body and bad relationships with spouses and everything when we're not happy. So, everyone's looking for happiness. And it just turns out that this idea of Abraham, what they're saying is that there literally is this thing called the vortex, where the second you want something, the universe actually provides it. And now if you relax enough and you go easy and you just have kind of like let your life be a lot more fun, that's how the things flow to you in a more ready fashion. They flow to you easier and with more abundance and more excitement and more passion for life, if we're just more relaxed.
Very true. The thing that is also a kind of an interesting and useful assistance to all this is that science is beginning to support some of the principles that Abraham and others have taught. For instance, the notion that you must achieve success in order to achieve happiness. That's a notion that's been around for generations. And the new science, relatively new science of positive psychology, has proven quite conclusively that it is not only not true, it is the diametric opposite of the truth. And that it turns out through scientific studies, they have proven beyond any doubt that when somebody tries to become successful first, the odds of them becoming happy after they're successful are really low, like 1 in 10. Whereas when they focus on being happy first, success comes 90% of the time. So when science starts saying that, then you start saying to yourself, well, maybe there is something to all this LOA stuff after all.
Yeah. I think, I mean, these law of attraction principles are happening constantly. And like I had something happen with one of my computers today where all of a sudden the power cord was saying it wasn't getting any power. And then I looked at it and it said the battery was just about completely gone. And so I was concerned. I thought maybe I would lose something on the computer. So I took it over to the Apple store. And, I went through a lot of changes on the way to that store thinking, like, why did this all of a sudden happen? I needed that computer just now. And I've never had that happen ever before. Why would a power cord all of a sudden show no light on it? Like it's not even giving power into the machine. And I didn't do anything to that computer. I didn't even move it. So the power cord didn't change position. And so then I'm going over there. And as I'm driving, I'm thinking of, that put me into a place of a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of panic, and then, why did that happen in the middle of my day and all this? And then as I was driving over there, I just watched myself take control of the situation and say, wait a minute, this is something I can relax about. This is something I can completely trust. This is something I can make an intention for it to work out really well. This is something I can just not have an issue about, and so by the time I got to the Apple store, I was just completely relaxed and whatever, I knew that it would work out. And it didn't entirely get worked out in that moment. I had to make an appointment for another day, but they told me everything's fine. Don't worry about it. As long as you don't need that computer a whole lot, you're fine. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And so I don't know. It's just that thing of like, hey, what we're vibrating with every second is always in our control. And if we want to get beyond resistance, the resistance is when we're fearful, when we're worried, when we're stressed out, when we in any way think that, something is more difficult than it needs to be. And once we decide that I don't need to go there, I can get really good at not going there. And maybe more and more what I want will come into my life. And I believe that's entirely the way what I want comes into my life now is by how much I'm learning to relax.
Yeah, very true. In fact, what you talked about with your computer, it reminds me of sort of a general fact about technology that I've learned through my own experience, because I've worked with computers pretty much since the PC first came out, since the first Apple computer came out, actually. And one of the things that I've learned over the years, because I was good at it, it came to me very easily. I was one of the lucky few who for our generation didn't have to struggle with it. Most of our generation have struggled with it. The kids coming through in the millennial generation, they have no trouble. They learned it from practically day one, came through their fingertips because all their friends were doing it, so they taught each other and all that good stuff. But our generation, we didn't have that. When our generation didn't even see computing until we all became adults. So it was a little bit more of a learning curve for many of us. But for me, it was pretty easy. And one of the things I learned over the years is that the computer is a great way to teach us just how misleading what is really is. Because so often, we tend to base all of our decisions. That's a very common human tendency, to base all of our decisions on what is. And, if you don't deal with what is, your head is buried in the sand, and you're not being real, right? These are some of the common cliches to describe it. Well, when you work with computers, you begin to get a lot of data showing you that what is usually, or not usually, often isn't what is. I'll give you an example. We have my wife has a gardening business that I think I've told you about, and we're actually starting the early ramp-up period. We'll probably get the thing really going in, depending on when the snow melts, either mid-March or even early April. And one of our employees, who will be coming back, we loaned him an iPhone for a variety of reasons. He's been through some really rough times. And so we loaned him an iPhone, and we found out that after inquiring about some stuff going on in his life that we knew about, that we were concerned about, he let us know that the iPhone wasn't working anymore. And my wife asked what was wrong. He said, well, the battery's dead. The battery is irreparable. He said he took it to, I think it was to a Staples, and showed it to them, and they tested it, and they said, no, this battery, it needs to be replaced. The battery's no good anymore. Mm-hmm. And this was an older iPhone. Well, the battery's probably worth almost as much as the iPhone. So if the battery's gone, you might as well just throw the phone out. I mean, it's not quite that bad, but it's still pretty close. So he called us up and said, the battery's dead on this thing, and I'm not sure what to do. Well, I have enough experience with the computer, and particularly with iPhones, to know that was extremely unlikely. It's very, very unlikely that the battery is dead. It's much more likely that there's something that is out of sync with the software that keeps track of how much battery life there is. Because, on all kinds of phones, there's a little icon you can look at to see how much battery life is there. Well, that icon doesn't actually have software that plugs into the battery and says, okay, battery, how much charge you got left? That's not the way it actually works. There's no technology known to do that. Instead, what it does is it makes estimates as to how much battery life it thinks it has. And because of the way the iPhone calculates that, it's actually possible for the iPhone to detect that the battery has no power in it when the battery is perfectly fine. So there's a little procedure you have to go through to basically resynchronize it, so to speak. Well, I'm guessing that the people at Staples had tried that and had failed. And the reason they had failed is they couldn't actually get the iPhone to start up. And I found that out because I got the phone back from our employee and messed with it and found out it was having trouble starting up. Well, I knew there was nothing wrong with the battery. So if it was having trouble starting up, it was another cause. It wasn't the battery. The odds of it being the battery were like, 1,000,000 to 1 against. So I messed with it, finally figured out that the power cord he was using had a short in it. And so sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. So he wasn't getting a good charge. Plugged it into another power cord, worked with it a little bit more, and finally got it to boot up, gave it a new charge, went through the procedure to basically resync the thing, which is essentially, if you ever have a problem with an iPhone, and actually most Android phones, where the battery is running out quickly, this is probably going to work for you. You drain the phone down until it dies. You recharge it again until it's full, a good 6, 7, 8 hour charge, something like that. And then after it's recharged, you do a forced reboot, so it has to reboot all the way from scratch, and that resyncs the battery meter so that it has a full battery and a full meter, and now they'll start working in tandem again for a while. So that's how you solve the problem. So I did that, and sure enough, the battery came back and it worked. Now, the evidence of our senses and the evidence of the senses of the people who worked at Staples who knew something about iPhones told them that battery was dead. In fact, it even said so on the screen. The battery is dead. That's what it said. There was a little icon on the iPhone. It's a little red outline of a battery. And it just kind of sits there and it doesn't do anything. And that's the signal that the battery isn't working. Well, the battery was working. It's just the software wasn't working properly. But the evidence of our senses said it was the battery. Well, what do you trust? Do you trust your senses? Or do you trust the previous knowledge that you've acquired that says, well, it really isn't the battery, it's something else? That's the kind of thing that happens all the time with people who really know computers. They learn all the different ways. They're often called tricks or hacks or whatever. All the different ways to get around the fact that computers they're essentially flawed instruments. They're great. They're wonderful. They do amazing things. But, hey, they got flaws. They're built by human beings. So, of course, there's going to be flaws in them. All right. Well, if that's the case with a computer, if you can be fooled into the reality of a computer, why couldn't you be fooled about other things? And that's the lesson from it. The lesson that being a technically oriented computer person teaches you is that you can't trust the evidence of your senses. You just can't. If you do, you're setting yourself up for failure.
So how does that show up in your life? Like in your other parts of your life?
It made it easier for me to start to accept the possibility that I didn't have to trust what is as being the only thing for me to react to, that I could actually create a new what is. That experience helped ease me into that position of realizing maybe there is something to all this LOA stuff. Maybe I really can create reality. Maybe I do have that power that creates universes at my fingertips if I can just learn how to use it. That's what gave me the hope that, you know what, there could be something to this.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
So I would like to invite anyone who would like to call in and tell us about your story about how you have noticed ease working or not working in your life. If you're into the law of attraction or you're just hearing about it tonight, I'd be curious to hear your comments or your questions about allowing your life to manifest more of what you want by being less vigilant and less diligent. Do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's really easy.
So, is it working for you or not working for you?
It's really easy to do, too. Just if you're listening, you're on the LOA Today website anyway, most likely. If you're not there, you can just go there. Just go to loatoday.net in your browser, and you'll see right there there's a link you can click. The link will download the appropriate app for whatever device you're using, and it'll just take you right in to sign in and talk with us. There's also a link you can click if you want to dial in, if you want to call in with like a cell phone or something like that. You just click that, and it'll automatically dial the number and dial the access code and all that kind of thing and connect that way. So either way that you do it, please do contact us. That's why we're here tonight. We're doing this show specifically so we can talk to people like you.
There's another point about this ease thing that I thought we didn't share it the last show, and I wanted to bring it up. And that I just think it's an interesting thing is that they say that getting what you want in your life, it begins with ease. That's really the main thing that will let the things you want in your life start coming to you. When you start having more fun, you start being more relaxed, as we've been saying. But then they said what happens is that as these things start coming to you from your vortex, from your realm of infinite possibility, these things start showing up in your life that you want, and you start noticing, I'm getting some things that I've been wanting for a long time, Mm-hmm. And so then that they have their own momentum. In other words, that as you're in that place of chilling out, in that place of being relaxed about getting what you want, that this stuff will begin to come, and a momentum will start to build on its own, and that momentum will keep it coming into your life. In other words, you don't have to keep the momentum going yourself. You don't have to get focused on the thing. Like, let's say you start, like me, I've been dating, and I notice each time I date, I get closer to meeting somebody who really is a potential partner for me. And I'm seeing how there's a momentum there. And so I don't need to try harder when I see that happening. I need to just continue to back off and let the momentum develop, because that's what I see is happening. Like this, I was checking out a dating site earlier today, and there was somebody there who I was attracted to, and I wasn't even looking. I mean, it was just one person, and she just showed up in my inbox, and that she had looked at my profile or something. And I just, on a lark, I decided to check out her profile because I liked her picture and I wanted to see what her profile was like. And, she was like so many of the things I'm looking for, more than anybody I've ever met. Wow. And this keeps happening to me. I keep coming across people who are like, oh my God, this is more and more and more of what I uniquely want in a partner. She's got, and it was like, I really like to meet her. So I sent her a little message asking her if she'd like to get together for coffee or tea or something. But I just feel like the universe is set up to unfold the magic that we want in our lives. It's set up that way. And I'm finding that this whole idea of being less intensive and less hardworking to get my results might be the very thing that I've been missing in my life in a lot of ways, that I have believed still to this day, and not as much today as last week or the week before, but I'm believing less and less in my make effort, and I'm believing in relax. And I love it, because it just feels like, wow, how cool would it be? You want to have new friends in your life, and instead of trying really hard to find friends, you relax and trust that the universe is going to bring your friends to you, and they start showing up. And I've been having things like that happen, or I go into some kind of, my comedy improv is a great example. I had my comedy improv class last night, and I go in and I step into a scene not knowing at all what I'm going to say when I open my mouth, or not knowing who the character is I'm going to be. And then just by being in that place of being really relaxed about it and just totally trusting, it's just amazing the scenes that unfold, and if the other person's doing the same thing, the scene can get really fun, really fast. It can be really great and really funny, great things can happen. So there's this momentum that life itself brings to things when we are simply happy participants. Like we're simply there in the best time we can possibly have. And then life loves to unfold the things we need, the money, the partners, the relationships, the fun. I feel like it's a sort of a magic, unknown, counterintuitive thing. That's, the word we used last show, counterintuitive.
That's right, yeah.
But it doesn't seem to make sense that it could be like that.
No, sometimes it doesn't. It's interesting, though, that you talk about the relationships. The book that we're putting together, that you, me, the other co-hosts, and a number of other coaches and LOA practitioners have all been contributing to over the last month and a half or so, which is in the process of being edited right now. I'm doing the editing, and we're going to release this book hopefully in the next week or two. And this book, I took a count, and I don't have the count at my fingertips. Oh, wait a minute. I actually do have the count at my fingertips, if you can give me a second here. But I was tracking. So far we have, I think, 47 stories from something like 37 or so authors, and another 4 or 5 to come. So it's quite a few stories. And of the stories that we have so far, interestingly enough, you're going to be a little surprised at this. Interestingly enough, the most popular category is acquiring a home. But the second most, it is interesting, it's a little surprising. The second most popular category, not surprisingly, is relationships. And the reason I mentioned it is one theme that shows up. I mean, so far we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 7 stories so far about manifesting relationships. And almost, I believe it's all of them. I'm not sure if it's all of them, but certainly most of them, they all emphasize the same thing. Don't settle. They keep emphasizing don't settle, because when you don't settle and you say, nope, that isn't quite right, and you basically throw the fish back, so to speak. When you don't settle, you're basically telling the universe, okay, you know what I asked for. You now have a little bit more correction. I want this, but I don't want that. And so the universe brings you another example, and it's a little bit better. And this is pretty good, but I do want this, but I don't want that. And through that process of elimination, so to speak, eventually, in every case, they ended up finding the exact person that they were looking for. In some cases, it exceeded their expectations.
Yeah.
But that same theme played out over and over again. And that can't happen if you don't feel ease. If you feel tense, if you feel like you have to make it happen, there's no way you're going to get to the point where you can actually feel like you can, ask for somebody else, ask for another example to come your way.
Yeah, you have to have I find I have to have a lot of trust and faith to keep dating and keep telling different women, I don't think this is going to work out for me. I've had a few women tell me that too, which is good. And I get to be on the receiving end of that statement.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's great. I feel like, God, I would much rather have her make a decision that she wants to meet more men, and that I'm not quite, turning her crank at this moment. It doesn't quite fit her needs. That's fantastic. I would never want to be with somebody who was doing it because she was settling on me.
Absolutely
it's like, I'll settle on Tom, and, I'm probably not going to get any better than this guy, even though I don't like this about him or that about him or that about him. But I do like this about him and that. It's like, but, also they say that in getting to be with the partner you want to be with, what's so key to it is focusing on the wanted characteristics. Like if you do keep focusing on the unwanted characteristics, I have also experienced that will, to the degree I'm vibrating with the unwanted, I do attract women with the unwanted characteristics for sure.
Oh yeah.
It's like pretty funny because I go, oh yeah, I am vibrating with that one there, and there it is,
Yeah.
Because I don't want that so much. I want to be sure I don't have that in the relationship. So then I learn to kind of back off my intensity about it, and I say, well, what is it I do want? And then I go focus back on what I do want. But I agree with the thing of not settling. And I think it's the same is true of houses. Obviously if you don't settle, then you just keep looking. And more and more the houses start showing up that, oh my God, that house was so close. That was everything except that bathroom or everything except that location, you know. And then pretty soon along comes this house, and it's more than you ever thought. That's already happened to me with certain women I've met, where she's just more than I ever thought. And yet then nice. There'll be a few things that were the deal breakers, and then I just couldn't go ahead. But, you know, it showed me, oh my God, you know, I could literally end up with somebody who just blows my mind, you know, like that would be so wonderful. I would be okay with that, you know. Mm-hmm. You know, she's just more than I imagined I could even, you know, be with somebody that great.
That's a good feeling. It's a very good feeling.
Yeah, it's a really good feeling.
It's interesting, too, that, like I said, the number one topic among the various contributors to this book that we're putting together is about houses, or in a couple of cases, offices. But most cases, it's about acquiring a house. And I really did not expect that. I did not expect to see so many manifestation stories along that line, but it's the number one category. And it's always the same theme in the sense that the house was hoped for but unexpected. And it was unexpected for different reasons. Each storyteller had a different situation going on, so that they couldn't readily believe that they were going to be able to get the particular house they wanted. And then through very unexpected ways, all of a sudden they got it.
Yeah.
In ways that just blows your mind. I mean, there's one great story. One of our newest friends, Louise and I made friends with a couple from Middletown, Connecticut, which is about, half hour from here, 45 minutes, something like that, depending on the traffic. And they're actually coming to visit for dinner tomorrow, which is going to be fun. But she sent in a story about how she is a director of a small community arts group called the Buttonwood Theater. And they had a old piano there, and they were bringing in these top classical pianists to play this piano, and the piano was terrible. It was just an embarrassment. She tells a story about how she attracted a Steinway piano.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, it's a great story, you know, and you read the story, and when you first consider the concept, you say, how on earth do you attract a Steinway piano? But as you read it, it all starts to make sense.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing. It all starts to make sense.
It's funny how these things work.
That's the momentum.
It is. Yeah. It is the momentum. And it's also the serendipity of it. I mean, Louise and I have a few stories we're including in the book. And one of the stories that we're including is about how we moved from Virginia to Connecticut in January of 2014, I think it was, 2013, 2014. Yeah, 2014. And when we moved, we didn't have a car to our name. We did not own a car. And not only that, we were in bad financial straits, so we couldn't afford a car. And we ended up driving out of a showroom with 2 brand new cars that we couldn't afford. But they made it affordable. They found a way to make it happen. And the story of how that happened, it's a long, convoluted story. It's a fun one. But,
sounds like a manifestation story.
Oh, it was not just one manifestation. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 manifestations in one story. I mean, it was just amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing. So that's the other thing. You don't want to limit yourself to trying to figure out how it's going to work. I tried to for the longest time, and I now understand that is a fool's game, trying to predict how it's going to work and trying to plan it out. Because all you'll do is just drive yourself crazy. You won't manifest anything helpful other than more craziness, but it will drive you crazy. If you like being driven crazy, do it for that reason.
Well, you know, they say that Abraham was saying that specifics are fine, details are fine if you're already in the flow of the momentum and you want to milk it, you know, because you know where you stand in relationship to the flow of things coming into your life, and it's already there. But if you're still at the place, if I'm at the place of trying to allow it to come into my life, they said it's best to go general and just get into the good feelings. And so I was reading this thing here. I want to read this to you. They say, we want to say to you, and we think it's very profound, that the only thing you ever need or want to focus on is focusing yourself out of resistance and into alignment. So out of any resistance. And they said you can use the simplest tools. You can pet your cat. You can put your feet in the jacuzzi, go lie on the beach, lie in the sun, go get a massage, listen to music that makes you feel good. Do anything that you can do to relax yourself out of any resistance. And as you practice that place of non-resistance, then all of the components of all the things from all the goal setting and all the reaching you've done and all the things you've been previously thinking were your work to do, then all those things will begin to flow to you. And they said, rather than turning to the specifics of what you've been asking for, you start to stand in reverence of the perfection of who you are and appreciation to the earth that you live on and the people who surround you. You start looking for reasons to love. You find reasons to praise and appreciate. You can be as specific as you want to be, but the bottom line is you want to just feel good. And you want to feel good so much that you withdraw your attention immediately from anything that doesn't feel good. So, it just, every single one of these podcasts come back to that same basic premise, that if you want money, you want relationship, you want a house, you want a better career, whatever you want, these things are going to come when you get into a good feeling place. And that's a place of ease. That's a place of flow, because it's our very nature is flow, and all the things that are around us may appear solid, but they're actually all flowing energy, and if we want to get in sync with the money to flow into our lives and those partners to flow into our lives and all those things, we just have to be more happy and more flowing, pointing our boat downstream, going with the flow of life and not trying to row our boat upstream for any particular reason, just chill.
Absolutely. It's also, there's a proviso to it that you almost want to throw in, which is, the proviso is we always attract. Everything that comes into our lives, we're attracting. But if you want to attract specifically what you're looking to attract, then yes, you need to get yourself into that good feeling place. But you also got to stay there about it. You can't allow yourself to fall into the doubt stream. You try to go upstream. You can't fall into any of the concerns or bad thoughts or bad feelings or any of the objections or any of that kind of stuff, because then you start getting different kinds of things showing up, and they don't look at all like what you were looking for, and so you figure nothing's showing up.
That's called having a mixed vibration.
It's a very mixed vibration, and it's what most of us deal with at most times in our lives. It actually takes a lot to learn how to vibrate high all the time. It takes practice.
And I don't know if anybody gets to all the time. There's always something that's going to come along that's going to throw us off our game. And that's why we in a world of contrast. And that's why they call this realm of being on the earth an adventure. It's a place to have wonderful adventures, and it's the fun of the adventure. But sometimes part of the adventure is the fact that we're going to be bipping along and everything's going to seem great. And then we're going to want something to change. We're going to want something different. And as we start heading in a different direction, we run into some obstacles, but then we can learn to apply ourselves again and become, skillful at our ability to get into obstacles and continue to flow. Right?
Very true. And by the way, we're going to be here for at least another 15, 16, 17 minutes. We want to give people a chance to call in case people do want to call in. So far, we haven't had a call tonight, but the night is still young, as they say. We're going to be here at least another 15, 16, 17 minutes. So just because we're nearing the end, don't worry about the timing on it. We'll go over if we have somebody on the phone and there's more to talk about. That's not a problem. But I'm basically saying that if you want to call, do it within the next 15 minutes or so, just so we can get you in. Otherwise, if we don't have any calls, we'll say, well, after an hour, we'll pick it up again next week. And again, the way to do that, just if you're already at the LOAtoday.net website, that's the place to go. If you're listening to this on a podcast later on, then show up next Tuesday night and come in and just click on the link right there below the player on LOAtoday.net's homepage. You'll just find information about how to connect in to the Zoom conference room that we use to take the calls and for Tom and I to talk to each other and so forth. So take the opportunity to do exactly that, because we'd love to talk with you. We want to hear from you. That's why we're doing this Tuesday night thing expressly, so we can talk to people who can't talk to us during the day for various reasons.
Yeah.
And I know something else I wanted to talk about too. You were talking about quite correctly this whole idea that we aren't perfect and that it's not always necessary to maintain perfection. There's another element though, and we haven't really touched on it. Wendy and I have talked about it a lot. You and I have talked about it a few times. Joel and Cindy, we've talked about it occasionally. David too. It's the idea of listening and getting signals from the inner being. Mm-hmm. And that's something I've been particularly trying to learn more how to do in my own life lately.
Yeah.
Because it's something, well, first of all, for the longest time, I didn't think I could do it at all. It was only within the last few years that I came to realize that emotions are signals from my inner being. I had never thought of it that way before. And when I finally made that connection through something I read in Abraham, I don't remember where, that at least made me feel better. Like, oh, okay, I do get some messages from inner being, from my inside, so to speak. Now I just have to learn how to interpret them, But it's also possible to get other messages too. Wendy continues to amaze me with just how in tune she is. She can literally ask a question and get an answer back on any topic, and she can get it instantly. Yeah. And you're getting better at it too with your ability to do your automatic writing and your practice with channeling and so forth. You're getting good at it. So I mean, I'm being left in the dust. I got to learn more about this.
Well, yeah, it's always there for all of us, and it's just a matter of us putting that on the front burner. I would say, just where we say to the unseen realm, to whoever it is that we feel that we are connecting with, or whatever it is we feel we're connecting with in the unseen realm. You might just call it your heart or your intuition, or you could call it your soul, or you could call it, God, whatever you want to call it. But, right? I mean, it just becomes like the willingness to trust that there is that beautiful thing there. There is something there, and that it's very focused on us, and it's constantly is giving us impetus. I mean, if we could actually probably listen to our stream of thoughts all day long, you could literally go back and find different points in the stream of thoughts where you can see, well, that was like a inspiration, that thought, or that thought that's really good. That thought came at that moment. That's exactly what I needed to be thinking at that moment. And a lot of those thoughts are coming from that realm, you could say. And really, it's who we are. We are totally connected in that realm. That's, if you believe that we're an infinite being, then, then all bets are off as to what's actually going on here, because that means everything that's happening is in one way or another is connected.
Well, that's also a relatively new piece of information for me. And again, Abraham really described this beautifully. They said most people believe, and this is what I used to believe, that we came from non-physical, and then we turned physical, became part of the physical life, and then after the end of the physical life, we go back to being non-physical. I believed that for the longest time. I believed that up to like a year ago. And then I heard Abraham say, no, that's not actually the way it works. The way it actually works is you come from non-physical, you remain non-physical, but you extend into the physical world. You're in both places. It's like you have one foot in one world, 1 foot in the other world.
Yeah.
And then at the end of your physical life, you simply return completely to being a non-physical being, which means you're always non-physical. I am always non-physical. I say that to myself looking in the mirror, and I say to myself, I am non-physical. And I think, wow, really? I am non-physical. I feel physical, but there's also a non-physical aspect of me, and it's a bigger aspect.
Yeah, they always say it's the greater part of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you think about it, like, what is an atom, right? Like, well, they say an atom, that they break it down in modern physics, and they say, well, the only thing we could really call it is that it seems like it's like a little small tornado. But yet it has no mass. It has no actual substance. And so it's like it's a thought. That's one way it's been described. An atom is like a thought. And then you realize, it definitely, if there's neutrons, protons, electrons, whatever they are, and no one knows what that is because it's constantly changing and transforming and never in one place at the same time, kind of a thing. At least this is my limited understanding, but that it's largely space, everything. And so every molecule of our body is made up of atoms, and the molecules make up the organs and the tissue and the cells and everything. So we are largely space. And then, there's a lot of even scientific research that says it seems to be the thing that permeates all of that is light, some kind of a light.
Some sort of
energy.
It
isn't like necessarily like the light of the sun, but there's some kind of a light there. So, it's like, what's actually going on? We could actually be holograms, everything, I really believe everything's a hologram, and holograms exist simultaneously in every part of the universe, and so there's this understanding that, when people say we are part of the all and the all is us and all that is what we are, I totally believe it. It's way beyond what the logical mind can imagine. There's something going on so magnificent. And that's why when we plug into things like law of attraction or the energy that creates, the money in our lives and the house we want and the partner we want and the food we want and all these things, we're plugging into a vast, infinite network of perfection, of amazing beauty and synchronicity and timing and, where time and space don't even exist. It's like, what? Really? This is where we actually live? And I think it is.
In fact, you mentioned that at the center of an atom, and you called it a small tornado, which I thought was funny, considering that an alternate word for a tornado is a vortex. But but when you talked about the space where the atom is, there's also the theory, like you said, that it's full of light. Another aspect of that theory is that it's actually full of energy. And when you think about it that way, that actually fits perfectly with the Einsteinian theory, right? E equals mc squared. That energy and mass are two ways of expressing the same thing, and that their relationship is directly proportional to the speed of light squared. Well, if that's the case, then it certainly makes sense that when you look at an atom up close, what you see is energy. Well, it also makes sense then, if it's energy, that no wonder the protons and the neutrons and the electrons seem to be there one moment and disappear at the next, especially if that energy is source energy, because source energy is driven by thought. If it's driven by thought, then all it takes is a thought, and all of a sudden the electron has moved. The neutron and the protons, they weren't where we thought they were. We thought them to a new location just because something new happened, some change happened within the continuum known as the universe. And they happened because of source energy. Well, now, can I prove that? Can I prove any of that? Not really. Can't prove it.
But there's a lot of books by nuclear physicists and quantum physicists who talk about these things.
Yeah. It's not all that crazy anymore. 20 years ago, that would have been considered crazy. Now, no, not so much.
Yeah, I think we're going to move into levels of awareness and understanding that are going to change the entire world. We're already in the process of moving into all of that, I think, and that's why programs like Law of Attraction today, LOA today, and even just the presence of, here we are talking about what we've been learning from channeled entities that exist in the unseen realm. It's like, and who are, I've been listening to solidly for 4 years, basing my entire coaching practice on what they say, and I've never found a single thing that they're talking about that doesn't jive with my intuitive, gut level understanding about how I think the universe is probably organized. And I think there's a lot more to how the universe is organized, but it's amazing that that's happening, and that we're basing a whole radio show on it.
Right. Well, and I have to tell you quite honestly, 20 years ago, if you had asked me about channeled entities, I guarantee you my reaction would have been to roll my eyes. I guarantee you. I was like, oh, great, another one of these crazy far left nutcase, new age nutcases. Right. Did I say nutcase? Seriously, when I actually talk to somebody like that, I'd say, oh, that sounds very interesting. And in the back of my mind, I'd say, yeah, that's about as likely as fill in the blank.
Yeah, right.
And here I am today talking about channeled entities like they're normal everyday things. I think to myself, wow, what a transition I went through. Because I really thought it was just insanity. I really did.
I'm literally channeling it now.
Yeah.
It's like, and I did, one of the assignments we had this week in my channeling class was to pick the same topic and try channeling on it, 2 or 3 times in a row. Well, I asked them, I said, what should the topic be for our podcast yesterday morning? And the channeled thing came back, have it talk about ease. And then it did a whole page and a half about ease for me. And so then I channeled again on it, yesterday evening and again on it this morning, each time asking, what do you want to tell me today? This time about flow and ease. And I've got 6 pages now of channeled writing on flow and ease that are literally changing my life. Because when I go and read it, it's literally a message to me that's the leading edge of everything I want for my life is literally being spelled out on that page. I don't mean all the particulars of like, the amount of money or the amount, the type of life partner or anything like that. But what it is, it's telling me everything about my attitude and my relationship to me, to my happiness and to my excitement for life and my ability to create the life I want. It's giving me really clear messages about, it's like full permission. It's like it's giving me full permission to trust entirely that my life is going to unfold in the most amazing, beautiful way, and that it is unfolding that way. And all I have to do is open the floodgates. All I have to do is just stand back and watch the beautiful show unfold. And as I do more of that, I stand in that position of awe and wonder and excitement. That's where I want to be. That's how I like living my life. That's the only thing I'm ever missing in my life is awe, excitement, and wonder and love and passion. But they're saying that's you. That's you. So go for it. Find how to do that in your relationships. Do that in your comedy improv. Do that in your hikes in the woods. Do that in your relationships. Do that on your podcast. Come from that place because that's who you are. So it's really cool.
Is that like that right there what you described? Is that like the big message that they've been giving you? Because you said that they're giving you all this leading edge stuff that you never even run into before. And I'm wondering what's the essence of the leading edge stuff? Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much that in all kinds of different forms. It says, let's see here, I'll read a tiny little bit. It says, let's see, your life is meant to be all about ease and flow. You need not concern yourself with try hard, worry, stress out, figure it out, and all that immersion and concern and fear. You are a being of light. There's no need to be anything else. Watch as the miracles unfold when you let go more and more to ease and flow, to trust and fun, to playfulness and beauty, to allowing and receptivity, to once and for all to creating a path for yourself of journeying as a lover, as your own best friend, as your own joyful companion. Who, after all, do you want to be? Isn't it about time to abandon your concern about time? Aren't you going to ever run out of You aren't ever going to run out of options or possibilities or openings and new beginnings. You always have new discoveries and good feelings and beauty and happiness and fun and enjoyment, to choose from. And then it says, do you believe that? You see, it's your hesitancy. It's your holding back to fully immerse yourself in the ease and the flow. That's the only thing that holds back your full-on manifestations. But you're not alone here. We have your back. You can feel the excitement building within you as you realize more and more that it's all designed to be a pleasure fest. It's a carnival of delight, a run for the money, a go at the gold, and it goes on and on.
You channeled all that?
Huh?
You channeled all that?
Oh, it goes on and on. 6 pages I could read of your stuff. And it gets really cool because it's great. Like it says, you're a catalyst in a wonderful experiment, an unfolding adventure. You are the player in the play. You're the unfolder of the unfolding, and it's a mighty play. It's a terrific unfolding, and it's opening night. You, in eager anticipation, taking center stage of your own play, and it's a marvelous one. So ease and flow, they're but bit players here. They're powerful understudies of great oratory, of profound self-expression, of dynamite expressiness of your own true essence. So yes, be easy, flow, dance, sing, be happy, be pleased, be excited to be free. Feel good, feel fucking good. It's okay. It's okay to be overly happy. Be excessively delighted. Think of how much joy must be in your vortex if you spent so much time in fear and worry and anticipation of ruination. Time to come home to your theater of pleasure.
It's the first time I've ever heard an entity swear. That was great.
Well, they say that what this really is channeling is they're simply using our infinite being, but they are us. In other words, it's our infinite being channeling through us, but it's like we're getting more and more fluid with the fact that we are an infinite being. And so as we more and more speak from that place and act from that place, but these other entities are there combining with us. They say lots of people have very specific guides. There's certain entities in the unseen realm that are particularly working with us, and I don't know how it all works. I haven't had anybody yet communicate to me, hey, my name's Ralph. I'm here to help you, Tom. But, hey, if that happens, then one day I'll be saying, hey, well, Walt, the other day,
Ralph's got a hold of you, right? But that's so cool, though, that you had all that come through you. I mean, we're already at the 1 hour, but if you don't mind, I want to take a few more minutes to explore this a bit, because you have really gotten to the point now where the words are just flowing through you. And I got to ask you, what does that feel like, both when it's happening and then when you kind of look at the result afterward?
It feels very reassuring that I am on the right track in my life, and that it feels very satisfying to know that I'm tapping into energy like that. And it's given me more of an ability to trust that my personal voice because you could say that's my voice coming out on the paper, but it's happening without me thinking. I don't stop and think during any of that writing. I'm just writing pretty much as fast as I can, and that's what's coming out. So at the beginning of every sentence, I don't at all think. If the word many comes up, or the word, you, or whatever the word that comes up, I just start, for the next sentence. And I don't know what I'm going to say in the next 3 words, and the next 4 words, and the next 2 words, and the next 5 words. I don't know what I'm going to say. So then when it's all happening like that, it just feels really good. It feels like me. It feels like, me in my most happy way, like in a way that I don't really know myself that way that well yet. But they say the more you channel, the more you realize, this is my infinite self. This is my real self. And that's very, very comforting. It's very reassuring to know that I have this infinite being that I am, that came on this planet in order to be self-expressed. I mean, this one channeling entity I listened to called the Council of Radiant Light, they always, if you read all their pieces, and I've probably read 50 of them, the theme of almost every one of them is they're saying, you come here to be self-expressed. And it's the expression of your infinite self that you're all about, So whether you express yourself in the garden, or you express yourself on the guitar, or you express yourself to your wife, it's like it's being self-expressed of our innate capacities for joy. That's the thing. That's the bottom line. It's that innate capacity for joy that we're expressing, and it feels fantastic. Yeah, it's.
Well, I also want to ask you, when you're doing it, do you ever have any doubt that maybe your conscious mind is just kind of taking over here, and you're not really channeling anything?
I did at first, and I went through that for years, and that's why I didn't do it that often. I've known about automatic writing now for at least, probably 10 years, and I hardly ever did it at all 10 years ago. And then I took a course on finding, who do you think your guides are? The course was about, who do you trust for divine guidance, and that I went through a lot trying to figure out who I do trust. And then that course, I started to actually do automatic writing and started to really see some pretty amazing things come through, because I created these pieces that I literally put them in a notebook and coated them in plastic covers, because I said, this is amazing. This came through me, because they were so beautiful. They were like little bits of prose. And then I didn't do much, because I was always afraid that I might start doubting it. And if I doubted it too much, I might not do it anymore. And then I might just feel limited again. And so I sort of kept it on the fence for a few years. And then when I started taking this channeling course, I decided just to completely go for it, because I'm so done not knowing my own voice. It's so easy for me to listen to Abraham or the Council of Radiant Light, or to read a book by Joe Dispenza, or read some book about Taoism, or read Lao Tzu, or, somebody else. But what about my voice? What is it that I uniquely have to say? What is it that this being of light that I am, wants to express here? And so that's why I took the channeling course. And now the channeling course, her main message is, hey, look, this is nothing. Everybody can do this. So don't get your panties in a wad about this. This is just normal stuff. What you got to do is just relax and let it come through you. You got to trust that, you wouldn't have come to this channeling course if you weren't ready to do it. So, see who wants to speak through you, or see what wants to come through you. You don't have to have a name for who's speaking. And I believed it was me, my infinite self, because I knew the larger part of me is an infinite being. So, it's just a matter of relaxing into it and letting that pen just flow. Or you could get a microphone and do it into a recorder, but just trusting that if I talk for 10 minutes, I'm going to let it come from that higher place. I'm going to let it come from that place of revelation, that place of inspiration.
So I'll ask you one more time in a different way. What's the one thing that you've gotten out of this automatic writing, this channeling of information? What's the biggest insight that you've gotten that you didn't have before that this gave you?
The biggest insight I've gotten is that I'm now going to live my whole life based on this. That I'm no longer going to turn to others and others' books and others' teachings like Abraham and stuff in order to get my wisdom that I uniquely need. That I'm going to turn to my own channeling and ask my own questions whenever I want to. And that feels incredibly reassuring. So it's already made my life just feel so much more mine and so much more uniquely self-expressed, So that's what I've gotten from it, is a great sense of peace of mind, a great sense of self-worth, self-confidence.
Really, yeah, that's really good. That's a lot. That's probably everything, actually, when I think about it. It does occur to me, though, because you've told me especially during our off-call conversations, because before and after each one of these shows, we always talk about stuff, right? And you've told me about all these books that have piled up that you haven't read so far. Well, if you're not going to be searching the books anymore, they're going to be very lonely books that never got read.
Well, that's one reason why a lot of them haven't gotten read. Because I don't really, I've read parts of all of them, but I don't rely. I can look at my whole library and I say, why do I have all these books? Because I don't really rely on them. I've read most of them, so I've already gotten out of it probably what I'm going to get out of it. I was holding on to them for security, because I don't believe in myself enough. And I realized that's where the crux of the whole life comes down to. It's just like holding on to old clothes because you think, well, I might wear this again someday. And I remember I used to like it, or I don't know, holding on to the past, And so I still think, though, that there's inspiration in some of these authors and things. There's definitely, this infinite intelligence comes at us from every direction, When we do a podcast together, I'm getting as much out of listening to you as I am out of listening to me. And so that's why we want callers to call in, because we want to hear, their infinite wisdom come through, or their question that'll spark, that wisdom to come through in whatever way. So yeah, it's all good. I guess that's the bottom line, is that it's all good. And we take from everything whatever we can get, but to me it's all about one thing, and that is it's all about expansion. That thing we were talking about the other day. It's the expansion of the possibilities and the potential for joy and for love and for interest and for enthusiasm and for why did we come here to this planet? What are we doing in this realm if it isn't taking the lid off of our possibilities and expanding and, growing wings, Yeah. It's about growing wings and flying. That's what it is to me. It's like how happy can I possibly get? I've had so many days I've sat up in the mountains along the Boulder Creek, and that question comes to me when out in nature so often. How happy can I actually get? Because I can feel so happy sometimes in those settings that I just don't. I don't know what to do with it. It feels so. And it's like, God, how happy could I get? But I realize, well, that's what I'm doing here. I'm here on this planet to sprout wings and to really fly.
That's very cool. Very fun. Well, we may not have gotten any calls tonight, But I have to tell you, Tom, especially this last part of the program, especially the last 10 to 15 minutes, made it really worthwhile for me. Because I think that's really the first time you've shared that much detail about your experiences with the channeling with the automatic writing. I mean, you've told some before, but this is the most detail you've ever given by far. So thank you. I want to thank you for doing all that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hope to be bringing it to more and more shows. Like I'm going to be asking for topics from my channeled entities, from my higher self, and then seeing if that new wisdom will begin to unfold, because the unique thing that I have to say might be a message that a lot of people will really like.
Well, I liked what you had to say. I mean, what that little bit that you read, you called it a little bit, and it was like this long bit. Let me tell you, it was quite a bit and a half. And there was a lot of stuff in there. You went through it fairly quickly, but I could tell there was a lot of stuff going on there. And man, that's just great stuff to share. So I hope you're writing this stuff up as it comes out and turning it into more, article form, so it's more formalized and so forth. But I hope you're also going to be sharing more of it here on the program, because that was really good. Very, very
great.
Good. So thank you.
Well, I hope I can. Yeah, I look forward to that. Thank you for your appreciation of it, because it gives me encouragement to keep doing it. And good. I certainly encourage you to give it a try, too.
I may do that. I mean, I have been looking at the question of what does it take for me to have my ultimate dream. My ultimate dream is to be able to have communication in the form of conversation with my other side, or with channeled through my inner being to other beings, to actually have conversations. I mean, there are, for instance, there are psychics, like the Long Island medium comes to mind, and she goes and meets with people and serves as a medium between their loved ones who have passed on and them, and sends them messages and so forth. And that's all well and good. But I want to have actual conversations. Where just like you and I are having a conversation right now. That to me would be like really cool from this side, to have conversations with somebody who's just in the non-physical realm. So, for instance, I'll pick one of my favorite people that I'd like to talk with. I'd like to talk with my father. My father passed 10 years ago next month, and it was even longer before that I really was able to have a conversation with him, because the last years of his life he was afflicted by Parkinson's disease, which really affects all different kinds of ways. So he really wasn't himself the last few years. But before that, he was fun to talk with when I could get him to talk. Some of the time I couldn't get him to talk at all, but when I could get him to talk, he was fun. And I'd like to have another conversation like that with my dad, from here, as a physical being, through my inner being to the non-physical side. I'd like to have conversations. I'd like to talk with Einstein and ask him why the heck he couldn't explain it better. He's got this wonderful theory of relativity, and only a handful of scientists even understand what it means. I mean, I'm teasing about that, but I'd like to talk about that kind of thing. I'd like to be able to just have conversations. I'd like to ask more about what it's like on the other side. I mean, when my father passed, my sister got a contact from him within a few days of his passing. And she had the presence of mind to say, "Dad, is that you?" Got an answer, yes. And she asked, "What's it like over there?" I thought, whoa, what a brilliant question to ask. And the answer she got back was festive. It's festive over there.
I like that.
I like it too. I especially liked it because it's what I call a dad word. I knew it's not a word my sister would come up with. It's not one of her kinds of vocabulary, but it's very much what my dad would have said. My dad, if my dad were giving a speech, he would give a speech about this festive occasion. That's exactly the kind of word he would use. So it was reassurance that, yeah, it really was my dad. But more than that, a festive situation over there. Living in non-physical is festive. It's exciting. It's fun. It's a party. Like, whoa, that sounds nice. Yeah, I like that.
That's what comes through me so much in my channeling, is about that this is a celebration. And even when I've gone and spoken at Toastmasters, that's come through me, when I did a whole speech there, a channeled speech, where I just let it come through me. And I was getting all ranting about the fact that life is meant to be a celebration, and people liked it,
That's great.
It's got to be delivered in the right way, because
of course.
If there's enthusiasm behind it and the people get that I really believe it and I'm really experiencing it,
That's all good stuff.
Then it's like a contact high for people. But I agree with you. I mean, I want experiences that are the more real they seem with that realm, the more I like it. It's a little bit hard for me to not feel like I have a direct somebody who's telling me who they are, and they're saying, I'm Archangel Michael, and I want to tell you something today, Tom. And
I liked Ralph better. I think it ought to be Ralph.
Ralph Royster Doyster.
And how do you spell that? No, not really. Well, this has been great, and we went over like an extra 15 minutes, but that's okay because this is not one of the podcasts that ends up on PRN, so we don't have the same time constraint. But boy, this last 15 minutes was great. So again, thank you very much, and I look forward to doing the show on Friday, and I look forward to doing next Tuesday again, next Tuesday evening.
Yeah. Okay, we'll keep trying it, and for a while anyway, huh?
Absolutely. And we invite you to join us as well. I mean, if you showed up and you didn't want to call in, that's fine. We're glad that you listened. But, consider giving us a call next time because we'd love to hear from you. And meantime, we'll invite you back next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.